Welcome to Nucleus, the podcast covering America's top leaders in business and culture. I'm your host, Tripwire. Today on the show, how George Kurtz led CrowdStrike from startup to public powerhouse. Last July, CrowdStrike pushed a software update that crashed 8.5 million Windows machines worldwide. Airlines grounded flights, hospitals postponed surgeries, banks couldn't process transactions. The economic damage hit billions of dollars. For a company whose entire brand was built on stopping breaches and protecting critical infrastructure, this was the cybersecurity equivalent of a fire station burning down. Yet somehow, CrowdStrike retained most of its customers, recovered its stock price within months, and George Kurtz, the CEO who built this empire, emerged with his reputation bruised but intact. That crisis management playbook is worth studying. But to understand how Kurtz navigated it, you need to understand how he built CrowdStrike in the first place. George Kurtz co-founded CrowdStrike in 2011 with a radical idea: completely rebuild endpoint security from scratch. Not improve it, not iterate on it, burn it down and start over. This wasn't some 20-something founder disrupting an industry he didn't understand. Kurtz had been the chief technology officer at McAfee, one of the world's largest security companies. He'd seen firsthand how traditional antivirus was failing. Companies were spending billions on signature-based security, and sophisticated attackers were walking right through it. The emperor had no clothes, and Kurtz was standing inside the palace watching it happen. Here's what made his decision interesting. He left a secure executive position at a massive company to bet everything on cloud-native architecture when enterprise customers were terrified of putting security in the cloud. Remember, this was 2011. The cloud was still suspect. Customers kept asking, what happens if the internet goes down? Kurtz's answer was essentially, if your internet is down, you've got bigger problems than endpoint security. He refused to build on-premise options. No hybrid approach, no compromise. Cloud only or nothing. That conviction came from his accounting background, which sounds bizarre until you think about it. Kurtz started his career at Pricewaterhouse as an accountant. He understood business models and unit economics in ways most technical founders don't. He could see that cloud architecture wasn't just technically superior, it was economically superior. Low marginal costs, instant updates, machine learning at scale, the ability to process massive amounts of threat data that would be impossible on individual computers. The math worked, even if customers were skeptical. The founding insight was brilliant in its simplicity. Traditional antivirus tried to identify known bad things, malware signatures that had been seen before. But attackers just modified their code slightly, and boom, undetectable. CrowdStrike flipped the model. Instead of looking for known bad, they analyzed behavior to identify suspicious activity. And because everything ran in the cloud, every attack attempt seen anywhere in their customer base immediately improved defenses everywhere. True network effects and security. The product literally got smarter with more users. But having a good idea and executing on it are different things. CrowdStrike's breakthrough came from high-profile incident response work. They investigated major nation-state attacks and published detailed threat intelligence, giving adversary groups memorable names like Fancy Bear and Cozy Bear. Then in 2016, they investigated the Democratic National Committee breach and attributed it to Russian intelligence services. Suddenly, CrowdStrike was front-page news. The investigation became politically controversial, but it demonstrated their technical capabilities to the entire world. If CrowdStrike could investigate the most sophisticated nation-state attacks, they could certainly protect enterprises from common threats. Kurtz took the company public in June 2019 at a valuation around $7 billion. The stock jumped 71% on the first day. The IPO validated everything. The cloud-native architecture, the platform strategy, the land and expand sales model. CrowdStrike became the poster child for next-generation security, explicitly positioning against legacy vendors like Symantec and, ironically, Kurtz's former employer, McAfee.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
Then came July 2024. A faulty software update. 8.5 million Windows machines displaying the blue screen of death. Global chaos. For a company whose mission was stop breaches, causing a massive IT outage was about as bad as it gets. Kurtz's response is worth studying. He didn't hide. He publicly took responsibility within hours. The company worked around the clock on remediation. They were transparent about what happened and what they were doing to fix it. The response wasn't perfect, but it was professional and accountable. Most importantly, customers largely stuck with them, suggesting the response preserved trust despite the severity of the failure. So what can we actually learn from George Kurtz's approach to building and leading CrowdStrike? 3 specific principles stand out, and they're not generic platitudes about innovation or vision. First lesson: architectural conviction creates competitive advantage, but only if you commit completely. When Kurtz bet on cloud-native architecture, he didn't build a hybrid solution to hedge his bets. He went all in, even when customers were pushing back. This created structural advantages that competitors couldn't replicate without completely rebuilding their products. McAfee and Symantec couldn't just add cloud features. Their entire architecture was built for on-premise deployment. By the time they tried to pivot, CrowdStrike had a multi-year head start. Here's how you apply this. When you see a fundamental architectural shift in your industry, and I'm talking about real paradigm shifts, not just new features, half measures usually fail. Hybrid approaches that try to bridge old and new often capture neither the full benefits of the new paradigm nor the comfort of the old. Kurtz's conviction required seeing beyond current customer requests to future requirements. Customers in 2011 were asking for better on-premise antivirus. Kurtz gave them something they didn't know they needed: cloud-native behavioral analytics. Second lesson: build network effects through collective intelligence. CrowdStrike created a system where every attack attempt seen by any customer immediately improved defenses for all customers. This is different from typical software network effects. It's not about connecting users to each other. It's about aggregating data and learning across the entire customer base. Every deployment makes the machine learning models smarter. Every investigation feeds threat intelligence back into the platform. The business implication is powerful. Network effects create compounding advantages and defend against competition. A competitor might match CrowdStrike's features, but they can't match the accumulated intelligence from protecting millions of endpoints and investigating thousands of incidents. This is what economists call information network effects, and they're incredibly durable. Look for ways to build these dynamics into your product. Can data from one customer improve outcomes for others? Can your product get smarter with scale? If you can answer yes, you're building a moat that widens over time. Third lesson: outcome-based positioning wins complex B2B sales. CrowdStrike's tagline is "Stop breaches," not advanced endpoint protection or next-generation antivirus. Stop breaches. That's the outcome customers actually care about. The module names follow the same pattern: Prevent, Insight, Overwatch. Each one describes what it does for the customer, not the underlying technology. This matters because in complex enterprise sales, you're selling to multiple stakeholders. Technical teams care about features and architecture, but executives care about business outcomes. Will this stop us from getting breached and ending up on the front page? Kurtz's accounting background shows up here. He understands that CFOs and CEOs think in terms of risk mitigation and business impact, not technical specifications.
Oh, hey, friend. Do you like what you're hearing? Now you can have a ridiculously amazing podcast, too. Check out holler.studio to get yourself one today. Holler, holler!
Let's connect this to established business theory. Kurtz essentially applied platform strategy principles to cybersecurity. The most valuable platforms create multi-sided network effects. CrowdStrike's platform connects customers seeking protection, threat researchers generating intelligence, and the Falcon system that improves with every interaction. The modular architecture, where customers start with one capability and expand to others, creates what economists call switching costs. Once you've deployed multiple CrowdStrike modules and integrated them into your security operations, moving to a competitor means rebuilding all of that infrastructure. The July 2024 incident actually demonstrates another principle. In mission-critical infrastructure, trust recovery depends on competence demonstration, not just apologies. Kurtz didn't just say sorry. He showed the company could systematically remediate the problem, implement better processes, and prevent recurrence. For customers, the calculation wasn't, should we forgive CrowdStrike? It was, is switching to an alternative actually safer? Given that every software company has update failures occasionally, and CrowdStrike demonstrated they could handle crisis response professionally, many customers concluded that staying put was the rational choice. Let's distill this into quick takeaways. If you're building something in a market with entrenched incumbents, look for architectural shifts that create structural advantages, not just feature improvements. When you find that shift, commit completely rather than hedging with hybrid approaches. Second, design for network effects from day one. The question isn't just, does this solve the customer's problem, but does solving this customer's problem make us better at solving the next customer's problem? Finally, frame everything around outcomes your customers care about, not the technology you're proud of. The bottom line? George Kurtz built CrowdStrike by making bold architectural bets when others were playing it safe, creating true network effects in a market that didn't have them, and positioning around outcomes instead of features. That same conviction and clarity helped the company survive its biggest crisis. Whether you're building cybersecurity software or selling tacos, the principles hold. Commit to paradigm shifts, build compounding advantages, and talk about what customers actually care about. Everything else is just noise. Thank you for listening to Nucleus. You can show our podcast team some love with 5 stars and a follow. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Grep News. Thomas.